Yeah, now it is set. So I start the presentation. Can you see the blank page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we will discuss one major theorem of group theory, and that is a very important theorem in the group theory that is called the Lagrange's theorem. And here you will see that how a new concept will be developed to prove this theorem. And this is one of the most classical early theorem in group theory. And the whole finite group theory is depending on that. So the Lagrange's theorem states that for a finite group, the order of a subgroup divides the order of the group. That is, if the order of the group is suppose 20, then it can have the subgroup of order 1, 2, 4, 5, uh, 10, and 20 itself, obviously. But there will be no subgroup of order 8, or no subgroup of order 12, or no subgroup of order 3. So every subgroup, that will be the factor of the order of the group that we want to prove here. So now there are some preparations of proving the theorem, and you see that actually we will develop some new concept so that we can prove the result. And this concept is called the building up some subsets of the group, that is called the cosets. Cosets of a subgroup H in a group G. Now, all the preliminary matters are developed for any group, whether it is finite and infinite. And finally, we will take obviously the finite group case to prove this statement, because this is meaningful only for finite groups. Now, these cosets we define in this way, that suppose you take an element A from the group and you define symbolically small a, this subgroup capital H, to denote the collection of all the product of A and small h, where H is an element of the subgroup capital H. So what we are doing, we are collecting one by one the element of the subgroup and
Some,
multiply by A from the left
someone
and
requested you. Sorry, sir. Someone requested you.
কি বলছো?
So someone posted a message in the WhatsApp group to accept his or her request.
What?
Sir, someone is
Sir,
requesting.
to join the class.
I told you many times that please be on the class by 7 past 5, because otherwise it is very difficult to admit you. When I am taking the class, it is a problem to admit you. Okay, if any further request, you just ignore it and I will deny. However, so these are called the left cosets. And similarly, you can define the right cosets. Symbolically, this is HA, and this is the same type of collection, but here we are making the product by A from the right. So this right left is obviously meaningful for non-commutative group. For commutative group, all the left cosets are same as the right cosets. But for the non-commutative group, these are different, the left coset and right cosets. So the cosets are the collection of this kind of element AH, where A is the fixed element, and we are multiplying this A from the left for every element in the subgroup. And that we are doing for every element of the group. That is, we are taking this A, we may take another element B and form BH, another element C and CH, and so on. Now, there are some property of the cosets. Cosets are not always subgroup, but sometimes it becomes subgroup that you can see easily. If we choose E, then EH is obviously equal to H, because every EH is equal to H. For all H belongs to H. So if we have the coset of corresponding to the identity element, obviously that is the subgroup. But now you will see that there are many other elements also in the group, and which will give the same subgroup as the coset. But in general, the cosets are not subgroup. These are just subsets of the group. Now we will put some properties of the cosets. Number one is that AH equals to H if and only if A belongs to H. This is the first property. And the second property is that AH equals to BH if and only if A inverse B belongs to H. Now, these two properties are very universal kind in the throughout the group theory, and throughout the group you have to apply these results several times.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Yes.
Now, sir, it is audible, sir.
So these are the two. Okay. I forgot to record this. However, I have recorded the ETC class, so that is the same here. However, I am recording this also. Is anybody want to say anything?
Sir, first property is equal to AH is equal to HA or H. Here we see in only H.
AH equal to H. কি বলো সেখানে কি বুঝতে কি অসুবিধা হচ্ছে?
মানে AH equal to HA হবে না H is equal to H only?
বুঝতে পারলাম না।
মানে স্যার ওই যে ফার্স্ট প্রপার্টিটা লিখলেন যে H equal to H,
হ্যাঁ
মানে এটাই কি স্যার?
হ্যাঁ।
ঠিক আছে, ওকে।
So since I have started the recording, I am just starting from the beginning. Today we want to prove the Lagrange's theorem, and which states for finite groups, the number of element or the order of the subgroup divides the number of element or the order of the group. Now to prove this, we have to develop some concept, and this concept starts with the defining of typically some sets or the subsets of a group. These subsets are called cosets. And these cosets are defining in this way, that if we fix some element A in the group, and then symbolically we write A capital H, and which means the collection of the product of all A with a small h in the capital H. And similarly, we can define right cosets. These are the collection of all small h times A, where a small h is running over all subgroup capital H. Now, sometimes we see that this coset becomes equal to the subgroup. And for example, for E, it happens to be equal to the subgroup. It is obvious because EH is equal to H for all H. But there are other persons also who can make this, and that is the first property, is saying that the coset becomes equal to the subgroup itself if and only if the element is this A is an element of the subgroup. And in that case only you have that coset equal to the subgroup. Otherwise, it will not be equal to the subgroup. It will be just a subset of the group. And the second property is saying when cosets are equal, the element may be different, A and B, but the cosets may be equal. And that we will prove the cosets are equal if and only if A inverse B belongs to H. And then the cosets become equal. So let us prove this.
হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ,
স্যার প্রপার্টি 1টা কি এইচ এর ক্লোজারের জন্য ট্রু হবে?
বুঝলাম না।
মানে এইচ যদি ক্লোজড হয় তাহলে কি ওটা ট্রু হবে? এইচ বিলংস টু মানে এইচ ইকুয়াল টু এইচ?
The H the closed H the subgroup.
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে।
So one by one we prove this, and these results, what I was saying, that this result is these results are very important and you will find everywhere. You will need them everywhere, and that is why I marked generally by this Beth 1 and Beth 2 as if these are the Beth of the group theory. And so I want to prove the first one. So suppose you consider that H equals to H. Now we want to prove that A belongs to H, right? The proof is very simple because you see that you have that A, you can write as A times E, and since E belongs to H, so this belongs to AH, and AH is given to be H, and so you get that A belongs to H. A you are writing as A times E. E is in H. In A capital H, we are collecting all the elements AH. So in particular, if we put here E and then the result is A into E, you are getting A. So A is in AH, but it is given that AH equal to H. So A becomes a member of H. Now for the opposite, now we want to show that if A belongs to H, then AH becomes equal to H. So suppose we consider that let A belongs to H. Now we want to show that AH equals to H. Now, so we just take any element from AH. Suppose X is an element of AH, and this says that X equal to A times some H. For some H belongs to H. Now you see that H is a subgroup. So it is closed under multiplication, and A is an element of the H that we have just assumed, and H is an element of an A of capital H. So their product is also belonging to H. So we get that X belongs to H, as H is a subgroup. And so we started with X belongs to AH, we are ending with X belongs to H, and so you get that AH becomes a subset of H. Now we will prove the converse, that H is a subset of AH, and then we can prove that H equal to H, right? With the condition that we have assumed that A is belonging to H. So now our task is to prove that every element of H that we can express in terms of AH whenever A belongs to H. So suppose you take any element H belongs to H, and then you see that you can write that H equal to A times A inverse H. Again, you see that H is a subgroup, A belongs to H, so it implies its inverse belongs to H also, because H is a subgroup. And also H belongs to H, and so their product A inverse H, that is also belonging to H, because H is closed under multiplication. So this element is belonging to H, and therefore the whole element is belonging to H. So we are here, we have started with H belongs to H, and we are ending with H belongs to H. And so we get that H is a subset of AH. So clubbing these two, that AH subset of H and H subset of AH actually, so we get that H equal to AH as desired. So this proves the first property. And if you review the proof, first we starting from H equal to H, we want to show that A belongs to H. So the trick we did, that instead of any element of H, we fixed a particular element, that identity is always belonging to the subgroup. So A you can write as AE, and E is belonging to H, and therefore AE belonging to A capital H. And it is given that A capital H equal to H, so you get that A belongs to H. On the other hand, suppose we start with A belongs to H, and we take any general element of H that must be of the form that A into small h, or small h belonging to H. But since the H is a subgroup, it is closed under multiplication, and both A and H are elements of capital H, and therefore their product is also belonging to H. So we got that every element of A capital H is an element of capital H. So A capital H is a subset of capital H. Similarly, we start with any element of capital H, and we are expressing that H equal to A into A inverse H. And again, A belongs to H, so A inverse belongs to H, so their product A inverse H belongs to H, because H is a subgroup. And so we get that small h belongs to A capital H. And so we got that capital H subset of H. And from these two, we got H equal to AH. So this proves the first result. Now we go for the second result, that when these two sets are equal, that is the two cosets are equal, and that we will prove that if and only A inverse B will be an element of H. And you must be careful, that is A inverse B, not AB inverse. We had previously an expression AB inverse for checking a subgroup, but it is A inverse B, not AB inverse. So here we want to prove the second property, AH equal to BH, if and only if A inverse B belongs to H. So again, we start with the left side. Suppose we consider that AH equal to BH. Our intention is to show that A inverse B belongs to H. Now you see that A, again A, that you can write A times E, and that is belonging to AH. But here AH equal to BH. So from this you can have that A belongs to BH. So A you can write B times some H for some H belongs to H. And so from this you can have that H inverse is equal to A inverse B. This calculation is simple, that you multiply both sides by A inverse from the left and H inverse from the right. And then you get that H inverse equal to A inverse B, right? So you have that, but H is an element of capital H, small h is an element of capital H. So obviously H inverse is also an element of capital H, as H is a subgroup, and therefore you get that A inverse B belongs to capital H. So this proves the first part. Now the second part is that we have to assume this, that is, suppose we assume that A inverse B belongs to H, and we want to prove that AH equal to BH. Now, in the same way, suppose we consider that let X belongs to AH, we will show that AH is a subset of BH and BH is a subset of AH. So we start with, suppose X belongs to AH, then you have that X is of the form A into some H1 for some H1 belongs to H. Right. Now we want to show that this X we can express in the terms of BH, B times some element of H. So this X we are writing in this way, that AH1 forcefully we are writing in the left B. So we have to adjust this by B inverse. And you see that AH1 is same as this, BB inverse H1, because BB inverse is an identity. So now we will show that this element is actually belonging to H. You see that H1 is already an element of H, and our condition is that A inverse B belongs to H, and H is a subgroup, so A inverse B whole inverse, that also belongs to H, and whole inverse is nothing but B inverse A, and so we get that B inverse A belongs to H. Now you see that H1 is an element of H, B inverse A is an element of H, so this term under bracket is an element belongs to H, and so the whole element is belonging to BH. You see, we have started with X belongs to H and ending with X belongs to BH, and this gives us that AH is a subset of BH, right? Now we will prove the other part, that if A inverse B belongs to H, then BH is also a subset of H, so then they will be equal. So we again start from here, that let Y belongs to BH. So this will imply that Y equal to B into something, suppose H2. So for some H2 belongs to H. And now we want to express as before BH2 in terms of A into something. So again the same strategy, A we are writing forcefully, then adjusting with A inverse, and then BH2. And then you see that this part, already we have A inverse B belongs to H, that is our assumption, and H2 is an element of H, so their product is also an element of H, and so the whole thing is belonging to A capital H. And so you see that we are starting with Y belongs to BH and ending with Y belongs to AH, and so we get that BH is a subset of AH. And these two gives us that AH equal to BH. So these two properties are proved here. The proofs are just simple, but just writing meticulously the part and just applying some small tricks, like here. Here we have to show that A inverse B is an element of H. Again, we are starting with, it is given that H equal to BH. We are starting with A, multiply this with identity that made no change in A, but E is an element of capital H, so AE is an element of capital H. It is given that H equal to BH, so we get that A equal to B times some element of H. And twisting A and H on the both side, we get H inverse is equal to A inverse B, and that gives us A inverse B belongs to H. On the other hand, if we assume that A inverse B belongs to H, and then we will show that H subset of BH and BH subset of H. So when we are taking that we want to prove that H subset of BH, so we start with an element X in A, that is of the form A into some H1, and then we want to prove that this is belonging to BH. So we just express this in this way, that B into B inverse A H1. And since A inverse B belongs to the subgroup, its inverse belongs to the subgroup, so B inverse A is also an element of the subgroup. And so you have that this product is an element of the subgroup. So this X belongs to BH, and you get that this part inclusion, that A subset of BH. And the last part is that you start with Y belongs to BH, and then Y is B into some element of H, say BH2. And again, we express BH2 as A times A inverse B by H2. Already A inverse B is in H, that is given, and H2 is an element of H, and by closure property, we get that this part under bracket, that is belonging to H, and so the whole thing belonging to AH, and so we get that BH subset of H. Clubbing together, we get AH equal to BH. So these are the first preliminary two properties of the cosets. What we gathered here, that how the cosets becomes equal to the subgroup itself, in which case the cases only when the element is belonging to the subgroup. And when two cosets are equal, if their inverse of one, the product of with other belongs to the subgroup, then these two cosets are equal. Now we will go for the third property, that third property we will go to show that two cosets, either they are disjoint or they are equal. There is no question of some non-trivial intersection between cosets. That is, the property is that for AB belongs to G, either AH equals to BH or AH intersection BH is empty. So the case is that either two cosets are disjoint completely or two cosets are merging with each other. This kind of case never happened for the two cosets, that this is AHBH, that something here, something here, something here. This type of case will not happen. For cosets, either they are equal or they are disjoint. That now is the third part we will prove. The part is simple to prove that. You see that suppose you take that A and B, suppose you take two elements A and B belongs to G. Now, if AH equal to BH, we have nothing to prove because this is one of the option. So we have to prove, otherwise their intersection is empty. So suppose we consider their intersection is non-empty. Sorry. Suppose you consider their intersection is non-empty. That is, we are assuming that some element here, that is, we are assuming this is non-empty. So suppose some element is here, and we will prove then AH equal to BH. Whenever there is an intersection, they are actually equal. That we will prove, that AH will be equal to BH. Okay. So now suppose you consider that X is belonging to AH intersection BH. So then X belongs to AH implies that X equal to A into some H1 for some H1 belongs to H. Similarly, if you have that X belongs to BH, and this gives you, it will be some B into H2, right? So we get that AH1 is equal to BH2. Now from this, again by multiplying or twisting on both sides, you get that H1, H2 inverse is equal to A inverse B. You are multiplying A inverse from the left and H2 inverse from the right, and so you get that left hand side will be H1, H2 inverse, and the right hand side will be A inverse B. But both H1 and H2 are elements of H. So H1, H2 inverse is also an element of H. And so you have that A inverse B belongs to H. Now this by 2, second property gives you that AH equal to BH. So you see that the third property is proved by means of 2. That is, we want to show that either two cosets are disjoint or they are equal. So if they are not disjoint, if there is any common element between them, then we want to show that they are equal. And that we are showing in this way, that suppose X is the common element between them, then you can write that X equal to AH1 and some BH2. Then they are same, H1 equal to BH2. So by twisting the elements on the both sides, you get A inverse B is of the form H1, H2 inverse. And H1 is an element of H. Sorry, H2 is an element of H, and so H1, H2 inverse is an element. And so, because H is a subgroup, and so you get that A inverse B belongs to H, and so immediately you get that AH equal to BH. Now, what this says that actually they are either disjoint or equal, that will be revealed by the fourth property. Just let me again open the blackboard. And the fourth property is the whole group G will be union of its all left cosets. All the left cosets are subsets of G, but we will show that actually their union is the whole group. This is very simple. First, you see that all the AH are subset of G because AH are the collection of A into small h, and A is an element of the group, H is an element of the group, so the product is also an element of the group. So all the AH is a subset of G, and so their union is also subset of G. So this part is obvious because all the multiplication we are doing within the group. So everything is within the group. So the union is also within the group. The other part is actually important, that G is also a subset of union of them. So if you take any element, suppose X belongs to G, and then you notice that X you can write XE, and exactly similar way E is belonging to H. So X is belonging to XH. So XH is a particular left coset, and that is obviously a subset of union of all the left cosets. And so X belongs to the union. And so you have that G is a subset of the union of H. And so from these two parts, that union is a subset of G, G is a subset of this. So you get that G is the union of H. Now, from 1 to 4, what we gathered knowledge, you see, the whole group G is partitioned into the disjoint unions of its left coset, like A1H, A2H, A3H, and so on. Because already we have proved that any two cosets either disjoint or equal, and finally we proved that G is the union of left coset. So we get that G is the disjoint union of its distinct left cosets of H in G. So the group becomes union of the distinct left cosets of the H in G. Because of these two property, number 3 and 4, this is number 4, and in number 3 we have proved that either H equal to BH, or we have that they are disjoint. So two left cosets, either they are equal or disjoint. So if we collect all the distinct left cosets, and then we get that the group is the union of the disjoint union of its distinct left cosets. And also you can see, look into the matter in the other ways. If we consider in this way that there is a binary relation between the elements A and B, that A is related to B if and only if AH is equal to BH, and then immediately you can see that rho is an equivalence relation. Because you have that AH equal to AH for all A, that gives you the reflexive, and AH equal to BH, obviously you get that BH equal to AH. And finally, if you have that AH equal to BH, and BH equal to CH, then both of them imply that AH equal to CH, so it is transitive. So this is an equivalence relation, and under this equivalence relation, you know that whenever an equivalence relation come into a set, the set become partitioned into its equivalence classes. And actually its equivalence classes are all these cosets, because they are equal means they are related. And that is why they are same, two elements are related whenever they are having the same cosets. So the whole group is partitioned into the disjoint union of its left cosets. So now we have to just put the final nail to prove the fifth result, that number of elements of a coset is exactly equal to the number of elements of the subgroup. And that we will prove by setting up a bijection between H and AH. If we want to show that two sets are equal in cardinality, naturally, if we can show that there is a bijection between them, that is one-to-one, one-to mapping, then they have the same number of elements. So we will define very naturally what will be the image of FH. That is very natural that it will be AH. And because H is the capital H is the collection of all AH. So A goes to H is the mapping, and you see that the mapping is a bijective mapping, because if you take that F of H1 equal to F of H2, and that gives you AH1 equal to AH2, and so you get that H1 equal to H2 by multiplying both sides by A inverse, or cancelling A from the both sides because we are in a group, or multiplying A inverse from the left, you will get that H1 equal to H2. And so you have that F is 1-to-1. And F is onto by definition. You see that every element in the right hand side is of the form AH, and its pre-image is shown, pre-image is H. And so it is onto by definition. And so the mapping is bijective, and we got that every element, every coset has the same number of element in H. Now all these 5 properties, you see that never I have assumed that group is finite, and all the, even if in the case of infinite sets also, their cardinalities are same. Now how to count the cardinality of infinite set probably we'll learn in the next semester. However, so that is the same way that if we set up a bijection between them, then we can say that they have the same number of elements. However, so you see that from 1 to 5, all these are true for any group, whether it is finite or infinite. But now to prove finally the Lagrange's theorem, what we have seen, the whole group is partitioned into some disjoint cosets, disjoint union of the left cosets, right? Like say 1H, a 2H, a 3H. Now when the group is finite, the number of cosets are also finite. Suppose there are k number of cosets. And the final result says that every coset has the same number of element as in H. So suppose the cardinality of G is N and the cardinality of H is M. So every such partition has M number of elements, and totally there are k parts. So total number of element is nothing but Am. So N is equal to Km, and so M divides N. And this proves the Lagrange's theorem. So after proving this, all these 5 parts, now the Lagrange's theorem becomes very trivial, one-line proof that since the group is finite, number of cosets are finite. We have proved that every coset has the same number of element as in H. And so if there are k cosets, total number of element is Km, and then N equal to Km, and so M divides N. So this is the Lagrange's theorem. And by virtue of Lagrange's theorem, we will see that we will prove many good results. But before that, I am showing you in a particular some group, that so that you can have some understand how the group is split into some partition of cosets, so that this I have proved by completely abstract in nature for every group and subgroup. Now, in a particular group, you can see that how this splitting is done. Here in the book, obviously, you please read some history that this result is developed in 1970, and then how it is developed. It is basically developed for in search of some general solution of polynomial equation, and then actually they are working on permutation groups, but not knowing exactly the name. And Lagrange actually.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I couldn't understand the fifth result, sir. Would you mind explaining it once again, sir?
Sorry. This is the fifth result. This is the line 1, line 2, line 3, 4, 5. And say it is 6. Now, which line you do not understand or did not understand? ছটা লাইন আছে এই প্রমাণটায়, এই ছটা লাইনের মধ্যে কোনটা বোঝনি তুমি? বলো, আমি বুঝিয়ে দিচ্ছি।
Sir, explain it entirely, sir. It would be helpful.
Actually, the teaching is in the both side. You have to also concentrate what I am saying.
So
We
sometimes
want to prove that H equal to H. The left coset is equal to the number of elements in the left coset is equal to number of elements of a subgroup for every coset. So how we can prove that two sets having the same number of elements? If we can set up a one-to-one onto mapping, then they have the same number of elements. And we have shown that the mapping is one-to-one and onto, and that is why they have same number of elements. না বোঝার কি আছে? আমি যেটাই ছখানা লাইন, কোন লাইনটা তুমি বোঝনি? Which line you did not understand?
স্যার 1 to 1 টা কি করে প্রুফ হলো?
তাহলে তোমার আবার একবার ক্লাস 12 পড়তে হয় বাবা। 1 to 1 টা এভাবেই প্রমাণ করা হয়। Any function is proved to be 1 to 1 if fx equal to fy, then x equal to y. That is the proof for the function is 1 to 1. এবার সেটা যদি তুমি না জানো, you please go through the class 12 material again for the function chapter. 1 to 1 কাকে বলে? যে প্রত্যেকটা ইমেজের জন্য এক্স্যাক্টলি একটাই অবজেক্ট আছে। One object for no two objects are mapped into the same image. That is 1 to 1. এটা হবে না। 1 to 1 মানে হচ্ছে যে একটা অবজেক্ট একটা ইমেজ। যেখানে দুটো ইমেজ সেম হলে অবজেক্টটা সেম, ইমেজেস আর সেম ইমপ্লাইজ অবজেক্টস আর সেম। দ্যাট ইজ 1 to 1. দ্যাট ইজ আ প্রুফ অফ 1 to 1. তো 1 to 1 লোকে কি করে প্রুফ করে? তুমি কি জানো? হাউ ডু ইউ প্রুফ 1 to 1? How do you prove the function is 1 to 1? How do you prove?
স্যার এইভাবেই করে স্যার, কিন্তু যে ফাংশনটা কনসিডার করছি আমরা h to h, স্যার ওইখানে স্যার ডাউট আছে। তো ওটা কি স্যার ঠিক বুঝলাম না।
কোন জায়গাটা বুঝলে না বলো, আমি নিশ্চয়ই বুঝিয়ে দিচ্ছি।
Sir, second line, sir. Second
লাইনটা স্যার ওর
ডেফিনিশন করা হচ্ছে, যে ফাংশনটা ডিফাইন করা হলো।
তো ওটা আমরা ডিফাইন করলাম মানে।
তো অবভিয়াসলি আমাদের একটা ম্যাপিং দেখাতে হবে, আমাদের একটা 1 to 1 onto ম্যাপিং দেখাতে হবে। তো আমরা ডিফাইন করবো না তো কে ডিফাইন করবে? আমি পয়েন্টটা ধরতে পারছি না। তোমাকে দুটো সেটের কার্ডিনালিটি সেম দেখাতে হবে, তার মানে তুমি একটা 1 to 1 onto ম্যাপিং প্রডিউস করবে। তো তুমি একটা ম্যাপিং ডিফাইন করলে, ডিফাইন করে দেখালে ম্যাপিংটা 1 to 1 onto। এতে অসুবিধাটা কি হলো? আমি সত্যি এটা একেবারে মাথায় ঢুকছে না আমার। ম্যাপিংটা হচ্ছে প্রত্যেকটা এইচ এ চলে গেল। তারপর আমরা দেখালাম ম্যাপিংটা 1-to-1, ম্যাপিংটা on-to বাই ডেফিনিশন, কারণ প্রত্যেকটা এলিমেন্ট এইচ অ্যাকচুয়ালি এইচ এলিমেন্ট গুলোই আছে, তাদের প্রি ইমেজ গুলো হচ্ছে এইচ, অলরেডি প্রত্যেকটা তাদের ম্যাপিং on-to হয়ে গেল। আর 1-to-1 দেখাই যাচ্ছে যে H1 equal to the H2 হয়, তাহলে H1 equal to H2, and that shows the mapping is 1-to-1. না আর কিভাবে করলে তুমি খুশি হতে, আমি এইটা বুঝতে পারছি না। We have to show a producer mapping which is 1-to-1 and on-to. So we are defining a mapping and showing that it is 1-to-1 on-to. এছাড়া আর কি করার ছিল বলো? This is I think this is the only method. What the other method you were suggesting to prove this? এবার বোঝা গেছে না? এখনো কিছু বোঝা যায়নি?
হ্যাঁ স্যার বুঝেছি।
না দুঃখের সঙ্গে বলো না।
Sir, one request, sir.
No,
This
no,
type
sir.
of mathematics is entirely new to us, sir. We request you to, sir, kindly go a bit slow.
Actually, this mathematics is not new. This is obviously this mathematics is new, but this part is not new to you. Actually, probably you did not get attention in your class 12 about the function chapter 1-to-1 and on-to all these things, and that is why you are finding some problem. এইটুকুর মধ্যে কিন্তু এমন কিচ্ছু করা হয়নি। এর আগে অনেক জটিল জটিল ওয়ার্ড প্রবলেম আমরা করলাম, ওই এপাশে ইনভার্স ওপাশে ইনভার্স, তার মধ্যে কিছু ট্রিক এবং স্ট্র্যাটেজি ছিল, তুমি বলতো কেন ওই ট্রিকটা আমি ইউজ করছি, সেটা ইউজ করা হয়েছে বাই এক্সপিরিয়েন্স। এখানে কিন্তু কোনো স্ট্র্যাটেজি নেই, কোনো ট্রিক নেই, দিস ইজ ভেরি সিম্পল। এবং দেখো এই ম্যাপিংটা খুব ন্যাচারাল, তোমাকে এই দুটোর মধ্যে একটা 1-to-1 on-to ম্যাপিং দিতে হবে। এই যে দুটো সেট, এইখানে এইচ এর এলিমেন্ট গুলো আছে, ধরো H1, H2, H3, H4 এলিমেন্ট আছে, আর এখানে কি এলিমেন্ট আছে H1, H2, H3 এইভাবে এলিমেন্ট গুলো আছে। তা তুমি কি করবে? তুমি অ্যাকচুয়ালি এইটার সঙ্গে এটা, এটার সঙ্গে এটা, এটার সঙ্গে এটা, এটার সঙ্গে এটা, এটাই পরে 1-to-1 on-to দেখিয়ে দেবে, এটাই তো খুব স্বাভাবিক।
হ্যাঁ স্যার বুঝে গেছি স্যার। হ্যাঁ স্যার, ইউ মে প্রসিড স্যার।
জাস্ট এই জিনিসটাই করা হয়েছে। এবার এটা আমি ফাইনাইটে দেখালাম, দ্যাট ইজ ট্রু ফর ইনফাইনাইট অলসো। হোয়াট এভার বি দ্য cardinality of H, we have that cardinality of H is equal to the cardinality of H. Okay, বলে আমরা এখানে ম্যাপিংটা খুব সহজ হয়ে গেছে আমাদের কাছে, যে আমরা H থেকে H এ যখন ম্যাপ করছি, the mapping becomes very much easy because all the elements of A capital H are of the form H. বলে H এর জন্য একটা কারেসপন্ডেন্সটা একদম মানে পরিষ্কার, যে H goes to H, H1 goes to H1, H2 goes to H2, H3 goes to H3, H4 goes to H4. তাহলে এই কারেসপন্ডেন্সটা একদম 1-to-1 হয়ে গেল। আচ্ছা এবার দেখো আমি এক্সাম্পলটা দেখাচ্ছি, তাহলে তোমরা একটু কংক্রিট এটার আইডিয়াটা পাবে, যেটার কারণে এই যে দেখো, ইন দ্য গ্রুপ S3, if we consider the group S3, then S3 has 6 elements, right? This identity 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3 transpositions, and 1, 2, 3 and 1, 3, 2, 2, 3 cycles. So we have taken that H, E and only one transposition 1, 2, that we are taking the subgroup. Now suppose we want to find the cosets. So how we can build up the cosets? We will multiply this by every element with the H. So if we multiply identity with the H, that gives us H itself. Now you see that if we multiply 1, 2 with H is this one, E and 1, 2. So when you multiply 1, 2 with E, that is giving you 1, 2. And when you multiply 1, 2 with 1, 2, that is giving you 1, 2 times 1, 2. And 1, 2 is a transposition, so it is inverse of itself. So it is giving you identity. So you get 1, 2 and identity, the same subgroup. And here you see that here you can remember the first property that AH equal to H if and only if A belongs to H. Here you see that there are two elements in H, and in the product of their only coset becomes equal to, this is also equal to H. So you see that only for these two elements, the cosets becomes equal to 8. Now you see that I am taking a third element, 2, 3. So I multiply 2, 3 with H. So when I multiply 2, 3 with identity, this becomes 2, 3. When we multiply 2, 3 with 1, 2, and then you calculate that 2, 3 into 1, 2. So 2, 3 into 1, 2, if we calculate, suppose we start with 1, and then 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 3. So it is coming 3. We start with 3, then 3 goes to 2. So it comes to 2. Then we come to 2, 2 to 1, and there is no 1. So 2 to 1, and here the cycle closed. You see the product is 1, 3, 2. And so when we take the product 2, 3 with E, this is 2, 3, 2, 3 with 1, 2, and that is 1, 2, 1, 3, 2. So this is one coset. This 2, 3 times H, this is one coset. Suppose I am writing this, say, H. Now I am taking, suppose, this element, 1, 3. Then I am multiplying with identity, it is 1, 3, and again 1, 3 and 1, 2. You can see that it becomes 1, 2, 3. 1, 3 and 1, 2. If we multiply 1, 3 and 1, 2, then you get that 1. So 1 goes to 2, so it is 2. Then you start from 2, 2 to 1, 1 to 3, so it is 3. Then you start from 3, 3 to 1, so the cycle is closed, and it is 1, 3. Suppose I am calling it BH. And you see that these AH and BH are completely disjoint. They have no element common to them. It has 2, 3 and 1, 3, 2. It has 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3. And also, this is disjoint from the subgroup also. This is 1, 2 and E. Now I am taking the fourth element, this one, 1, 2, 3. Multiplying by E, this gives us 1, 2, 3. But multiplying by 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, if you calculate, you will see it will come 1, 3. So you see that it is the same as this one. This coset is exactly equal to this. Similarly, you can see that if we multiply by 1, 3, 2, and that becomes exactly equal to this. This coset is exactly equal to this one. So actually, there are 3 distinct left cosets. So the whole group S3 is on the partition of 3 left cosets. One is the subgroup itself, where the elements are E and 1, 2. Another is of 2 elements, 2, 3 and 1, 3, 2. Another is of 2 elements, 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3. And you notice that every coset has the same number of elements. That every coset has the same number of elements that of the subgroup. So they have, here you are getting 2 elements, 2 elements, 2 elements. And totally you get 3 cosets, and each of them having 2 elements, and so you get that 2 into 3, the total number of element of the group. Just there are 6 elements in the group. And you see that the Lagrange's theorem says that the number of order of the subgroup divides the order of the group. এটা দেখো খুব সুন্দর করে পুরো এক্সাম্পলটা বোঝা যাচ্ছে যে আমার এই গ্রুপটা নিয়ে আমি স্টার্ট করলাম আর এই সাবগ্রুপটা নিয়ে আমি স্টার্ট করলাম। তাহলে আমি এই সাবগ্রুপটাতে কি করছি, এবার প্রত্যেকটা এলিমেন্টকে আমি গুণ করছি, গুণ করে করে কোসেট গুলো বানাচ্ছি। আমি দেখলাম যে অ্যাকচুয়ালি 6টা কোসেটের মধ্যে 3টে কোসেট হচ্ছে অ্যাকচুয়ালি ডিস্টিংক্ট, and other cosets are equal to this. This is equal to this, this is equal to this, and this is equal to this. So actually there are 3 distinct left cosets in the group, and each of having the same number of elements of the group, and you see that they are totally making the disjoint partition of the whole group. And again, you can verify the property 2 also, that A inverse B property for any one of them, you see that these two cosets are same. This 2,3H and 1,32H are same. Now, if we calculate what is 2,3 inverse 1,32, you see that 2,3 inverse is 2,3. This is 1,32. So if we compute starting from 1, you see that 1 goes to 3, 3 goes to 2. So we get 2 here. Then we start from 2 to 1. There is no 1. So here the cycle is closed. And then 3 to 2, 2 to 3. So it is a single cycle. So it is nothing but 1, 2. And you see that 1, 2 is an element of H. So this belongs to H. And so you have that if you consider this A, this is B, then you see that A inverse B belongs to H. And that is why this AH is equal to BH. And that is the verification of the second property. দেখো এবার অনেকটা ক্লিয়ার হয়েছে কি? And in this section, you will see various other construction of the cosets. And so you please go through this, and then you can understand that how the cosets are forming and how the cosets are making the disjoint partition of the group. For example, the above one also, you can see that actually, okay, let me just get back to the blackboard. Then I can give you, suppose you consider the group is Z plus, right? And you consider, suppose the subgroup is say 5Z. You know that all the NZ are subgroup of G. So suppose the subgroup is 5Z. Now you see that what are the cosets? Here the operations are addition. So you have that 0 plus 5Z is one coset. 1 plus 5Z is the other coset. 2 plus 5Z, 3 plus 5Z, and 4 plus 5Z. And now you see that 5 plus 5Z is same as this, because you are multiplying 5 plus some multiple of 5. It is again a multiple of 5. That is 5 plus, if you take 5K, 5 plus 5K, you can write, 5 into K plus 1. So it is again a multiple of 5. It is nothing but the 5Z itself, the group itself. And every multiple of 5 plus the group, you see that, again you can see that AH equal to H if and only if A belongs to H. And here the operation is addition, so you get that A plus 5Z is equal to 5Z if and only if actually A belongs to 5Z. So for all the multiples of 5, 5 plus 5Z is nothing but 5Z. Now what are the elements 1 plus 5Z? They are all the elements of the form 5K plus 1. They are all the elements of the form 5K plus 2. These are 5K plus 3, and these are 5K plus 4. And then you see there are actually 5 distinct cosets are there. So there are 5 distinct cosets: 0 plus 5Z, 1 plus 5Z, 2 plus 5Z, 3 plus, and 4 plus. And you see the whole set of integer is partitioned into 5 parts. This is 0 plus 5Z. This is 1 plus 5Z. This is 2 plus 5Z. And this is 3 plus 5Z. This is 4 plus 5Z, right? So these are all the elements which are of the form 5K. These are all the elements of the form 5K plus 1, 5K plus 2, 5K plus 3, and finally 5K plus 4. দেখো এখানে 5টা কোসেট আছে এবং এটা কিন্তু একটা ইনফাইনাইট। এখানে প্রত্যেকটা কোসেটও ইনফাইনাইট, but the number of elements are same in the way that they have a bijection with the elements of the subgroup. That is, if we map that, suppose 5Z to say 3 plus 5Z. So suppose you want to define a map, and then you see that all the elements are of the form 5K. So you map that 5K to 5K plus 3. And you see the mapping is 1 to 1 and on to, because if 5K1 plus 3 is equal to 5K2 plus 3, and then you get that 5K1 equal to 5K2. And so you have that mapping is 1 to 1. And the mapping is on to, because every element here is of the form 5K plus 3 and its pre-image is 5K. And so you see that there exists a bijection between any element here to any element here. So this bijection gives us, they have the same number of elements. And these 5 cosets make the disjoint partition of the set. So there are many other examples in the book, and you go through and find the cosets and see that how the whole group is partitioned into the left coset. Now, what great result that we got ultimately by Lagrange's theorem, that for any finite group, G, order of the subgroup divides order of the group. And that gives an immense advantage in the analysis of finite groups, that what I was just starting, that suppose we are having a group of order 12, we know that there cannot be any subgroup of order 7 or subgroup of order 5 or subgroup of order 10. The order of the subgroup must be either 1, 2, 4 or 6 or 12 itself, the whole group. There is no other subgroup with the other orders. And immediately there are many corollaries are there. Immediately there are many applications are there. First of all, you see that we are saying about the order of the subgroup. Now, can we say about the order of the element? And also we can say the order of the element, order of every element is basically again the factor of order of the group, and that follows from immediately from Lagrange's theorem. If we consider the cyclic subgroup generated by A, then we know the order of the subgroup is, order of a cyclic group is equal to the order of its generator. So order of H is equal to order of A. So, and by Lagrange's theorem, order of H divides order of G, and therefore we have order of A divides order of G. So for every element, its order is a factor of the order of the group. So if you have a group of order 12, and if we want to know the order of any element, again the order of any element can only be the factor of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. There cannot be any other order. Second application is that since that order of element divides the order of the group, suppose you consider that order of the group is n, and then you have that a to the power n is always equal to identity, because you have that order of A. Suppose order of A is k. Now you know k divides n, so n equal to some k into r, and so you have that a to the power n is equal to a to the power kr. So you can write a to the power k whole to the power r. Now the order of A is k, so a to the power k is identity. So this is identity to the power r and itself identity. So whatever be the order of the group, in every finite group, a to the power number of element of the group is identity. ধরো তুমি একটা গ্রুপে কিছুই জানো না, কিন্তু তুমি এই যেমন 12টা গ্রুপে আমি যদি কোন একটা এলিমেন্ট সম্বন্ধে কিছুই না জানি, আমি অন্তত এটুকু জানি যে a to the power 12 অলওয়েজ আইডেন্টিটি। ফলে a to the power 11 তার ইনভার্স হয়ে যাবে। ফলে এই জিনিসটা অলওয়েজ আমাদের for any group, if we have no information, at least any finite group, if we have no information that in which power of A we are getting, and that is for every element. And which power of A we are getting the identity? At least you have that if you raise to the number of element of the whole group, that power will always give you the identity. This is the second application. The third application, you see that how much powerful is Lagrange's theorem. So we can go for many results in the number theory also. And the Farmer's little theorem that says that A to the power P is congruent to A mod P for any A integer A and P is prime. That is a simple result of number theory, but you see that how we can prove this by means of group theory and by means of Lagrange's theorem. I can remind you that this symbol A is congruent to B mod N is nothing but that N divides A minus B. And this is an equivalence relation that you have studied before. And so actually we will show that P divides A to the power P minus A. So that is A to the power P is congruent to A mod P. And you see that how we can use the Lagrange's theorem for this. First of all, we are taking two cases. First case, we are considering suppose P divides A. Now, if P divides A means A is a multiple of P, that is A equal to some integer times P. And then obviously A is congruent to 0 mod P. That means if you divide A by P and then you get the remainder 0 because P is a factor of A or A is a multiple of P. And so the quotient is here K. And so you get that A is congruent to 0 mod P. And then immediately you have that A to the power P is congruent to 0 to the power P mod P. And that is same as 0 mod P. So, and 0 mod P is again congruent to A mod P. So you have that this is congruent to A mod P. So if P divides A, we get that A is congruent to 0 mod P, and then A to the power P is congruent to again 0 mod P, and because of the transitivity, we have that A to the power P is congruent to A mod P. So the other case is that suppose P does not divide A, and when P does not divide A, in that case we have, since P is prime, then we have obviously GCD of A and P is 1. Their GCD is 1. They are relatively prime to each other because P is prime. And then we are considering the group UP. You can remember again, if you have Zn, modulo n, then you have that all these elements 0 to 1 to n. And the group UN, you can remember all the A bar belongs to Zn such that GCD of N and A is equal to 1. And they are the multiplicatively invertible element of Zn. And that is the units of Zn. This is a group of units of Zn. And this group has how many number? In the case of P, you see that UP has P minus 1 elements. From 1 to P minus 1, everyone is relatively prime to this. And everyone is multiplicatively invertible. So the number of element of UP is nothing but P minus 1. So you see that we have just proved in that A to the power order of G is always equal to identity. So whatever be the element, so A bar to the power P minus 1 is always equal to 1 bar. 1 is the identity here. So that means A to the power P minus 1 bar is 1 bar. that means that they are congruent to each other. So a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod p. And so if you multiply both sides by a, you have that a to the power p is congruent to a mod p. That is what required. So to prove the Fermat's-Little theorem, we prove this into two parts. We have to show that for every integer a and every prime p, a to the power p is congruent to a mod p. Now the first case is p divides a. So a is a multiple of p. So if you divide p by a, divide a by p, you get the remainder 0. So a is congruent to 0 mod p. So a to the power p is again congruent to 0 mod p. So a to the power p is congruent to a mod p in this case. Now the second case is p does not divide a, but then a and p are relatively prime. Now consider the group UP. UP is the collection of all elements in ZP, all equivalence classes in ZP, which are relatively prime to P. And since P is prime from 1 to P minus 1, all of them are relatively prime to P. So number of element of UP is P minus 1. So A bar to the power P minus 1 is 1 bar. 1 bar is the identity of the group. So that we are getting by application of Lagrange's theorem that a to the power order of g is identity for every a. And so we get that a to the power p minus 1 whole bar is nothing but 1. And that is to say this bar means a bar equal to b bar means actually a is congruent to b mod n. Here the mod p is here. So this is congruent to 1 mod p. And so if you multiply both sides by a, and then you have that a to the power p is congruent to a mod p. And that proves the Fermat's-Little theorem. দেখো এটা বুঝতে কিছু অসুবিধা হলে বলো আমি আর আচ্ছা so exactly in the same way we can have another theorem, and that we can have say corollary 4, that is due to Euler. That is the same type of thing, but this says that a to the power phi n is congruent to 1 mod n, where a is an integer and GCD and n is also an integer, or n is a natural number, rather I should say. N is a natural number such that GCD of n and a is equal to 1. And then a to the power phi n is equal to congruent to 1 mod n. What is phi n? Phi n is Euler's totient function, that is number of positive integer less than equal to n and co-prime to n. That is relatively prime to n. This number is phi n. So it is again by the group un. If we consider the group un, that group of units of Zn, and un has exactly the number of elements phi n, because by definition un is the set of all elements of Zn where GCD of n and a is equal to 1. And so it is exactly the set of all integers less than equal to n and relatively prime to n. And so its order is phi n. So again by the same property that a to the power order of the g is identity, and 1 is here identity. And so here again you get that a to the power a bar to the power phi n is is equal to 1 bar. And so you have that a to the power phi n bar is 1 bar. And so, and a to the power phi n is congruent to 1 mod n. So you see that the theorems in the number theory, how this can be immediately evolved by the application of Lagrange's theorem and how much it is powerful. And if we, without using the group theory, if you want to prove that a to the power phi n is congruent to 1 mod n, then you at least require some half of a page to prove that. But here this is only one line proof that consider the group UN, its order is phi n, and therefore a to the power phi n is congruent to 1 mod n. So in this way, there are many applications of Lagrange's theorem that you can see here. And if we go back to the book, then if we revise this, you see that it started with some history of this, and then defining the cosets, left cosets and right cosets, and then produce some examples. Here is an example of a finite group, and it is shown that how the left coset and right cosets are formed. এবং আমি তোমাদের প্রচন্ডভাবে রিকোয়েস্ট করছি, and I just request all of you, you must go through the example to get the understanding of this coset as I have explained this very elaborately to you. Similarly, the same distribution for right cosets. আমরা left coset দিয়ে যা করলাম exactly similar জিনিস তুমি right coset দিয়ে করতে পারবে. The same theory you can develop over the right cosets. There is no difference between them. But every time, but you have to be consistent that you are taking the right cosets. And here you see that theorem that the elementary results that I am proving property 1, 2, 3, and here the same properties for right cosets also, property 1, 2, 3, and then the property you see that they forms a partition that I told you, and this is the fifth property that the number of elements are same. আমি যে বোঝালাম সেটা বুঝতে অসুবিধা তোমরা দেখো এখানে ডিটেইলসে লেখা আছে, and you go through the writing that so that you can again understand this. And here there is a result that I did not do here, that number of left coset is same as the number of right coset, and actually it is the same that you can easily have, because in the finite group you see get that this is nothing but the order of group by order of subgroup, and that is the number of cosets, because we have shown that number of order of G is equal to order of H into number of cosets, right? Whether you are taking left cosets or right cosets. And so the number of cosets, this number of cosets, it is denoted by index of H. And symbolically, we denote this is in this way. I of H suffix G, that is index of H in G. That is nothing but order of G by order of H. This is called the index of H. And that is the number of left cosets or right cosets, whatever you take. So this is finally the Lagrange's theorem. They are writing in terms of the index. Here index is defined. And then you come to the application. Oh really, yeah, there is another very good application. You see that every group of prime order is cyclic. That again we can prove in just one line. You see that if you start with a group of prime order, if order of the group is prime, now since it is prime, it is greater than 1. So there exists some non-identity element in the group. So you generate the cyclic subgroup by A, and you see that order of this subgroup must divide order of the group. Order of the group is prime. So order of the subgroup may be 1 or P itself. It cannot be 1 because already there is a non-identity element. If it is 1, then H would be only the identity subgroup. But it has a non-identity element, so it must be greater than 1. So it must be equal to P. But order of the group is P and subgroup is P. That means the subgroup equals to the group. Within the group of P elements, if you have a subgroup of P elements, that means that is the same set. So H becomes equal to G, and H is cyclic. So every prime order group is cyclic. So immediately this is another application of Lagrange's theorem. And then what we were saying, that a to the power n equal to identity and order of a divides n. Then this Fermat's little theorem. Here it is written in this form, but I have written in this form, that a to the power p congruent to a mod p. And that is more general, because here you have to assume that p does not divide a, but it is for all a. This is for all a. Then this is the Euler's formula, the last thing that we have done. A to the power phi n is congruent to 1 mod n. Now this is the formula for the product of subgroups that I am not proving here. I am not keeping in the course also, because already your course is becoming heavy with the 4 parts. So I want to avoid this. So the proof you avoid, just for the sake of problem, you can, if you have some problem regarding this, so you just get to know about the formula. Here HK may not be a subgroup, HK may be a subset also, but the formula still holds that number of element in HK, the formula is this one. Number of element in HK is number of element of H times number of element K divided by number of element of H intersection K. That is the formula. So these are the results and these are the applications. Now for this Lagrange's theorem onwards, I will make you the problems selective to make your course shorter, and not all the problems you have to do. I will just mark you that which problem you will do or not. So this is the Lagrange's theorem. Now after the Lagrange's theorem, there is a chapter normal subgroup, but I will now not exactly follow the sequence of this book, because I will first define homomorphism, then I will come to the normal subgroup. That you will understand why I am doing so, because the motivation of the normal subgroup will come from the homomorphism. So without understanding the homomorphism, one can be astonished that why are we defining the normal subgroup? And that is why I will first define the homomorphism, and then I will come to the normal subgroup chapter. So that is the last concept that I will discuss today, the concept of homomorphism. আচ্ছা, একটা কথা বলি, if you think that your today is already overburdened, then I can do it in the next class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ঠিক আছে, আজকে অনেকগুলো ডিপ কনসেপ্ট হয়েছে, একসঙ্গে বললে আবার মাথায় ঢুকবে না, আমি বলে
ঠিক আছে
I think better I will do in the next class. ঠিক আছে, এতক্ষণ অবধি যা পড়ালাম, তোমাদের কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে তোমরা বলতে পারো। Sorry for my reaction for that question. Actually কি হচ্ছে জানিস তো বাবা, আমি খুব সিম্পল বলি, প্রবলেমটা কি অনলাইনের জন্য। আমি যদি এখন অফলাইন তোমাদের পড়াতাম, অনেক সহজ হতো, যে তোমাদের চোখ মুখ দেখে তোমাদের বলতে হতো না, চোখ মুখ দেখে বুঝে যেতাম যে কে বুঝছে কে বুঝছে না। আমি আবার তার কাছে গিয়ে বুঝিয়ে দিতাম। অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমি যখন অফলাইন ক্লাস নিই, আই এম জাস্ট রাউন্ডিং ওভার দ্য ক্লাস, অলওয়েজ মুভিং অন দ্য ক্লাস। আমি চোখ মুখ দেখে অনেক বছর পড়াচ্ছি তো বুঝতে পারি। এবার অনলাইনে মুশকিল কি হয়ে যাচ্ছে, একটা মেশিনের সামনে বসে যাচ্ছি তো, সেই জন্য মাঝে মাঝে একটু ইরিটেশন চলে আসে। সরি ফর দ্যাট। সেটা আসা ভালো না, তাদের তোমরা আবার জিজ্ঞেস করতে পরে হেজিটেট করবে। যাই হোক, তোমরা সেটা করো না, তোমরা জিজ্ঞেস করো অবশ্যই। বাবা কি একটা হয়ে গেল, একই রে। যাই হোক, তোমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছ আমার কথা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, the last thing I want to just tell you about the assignment, you have many of you submitted the assignment and many of you did not. But the idea of having a solution book is far-reached because in many cases the solutions are not okay, but the solutions are not okay that I can make you correct. But the problem is that problem of writing. Even if the solution is correct, but the writing is not always at par. And that is obvious, that is very natural. And if it is in the offline mode, then I can correct by pen so that you can make it fresh and submit it again by this correction. But for so many students and for in the soft copy, this correction is becomes nearly impossible. So what I will do, what I am doing now, that just checking and saying that where it is wrong and where it is right. However, let all the assignments be submitted, and obviously the deadline was 22nd, so naturally the advantage will go to the students who have submitted, whether it is right or wrong, before 22nd. However, you will submit, and I will check and mark, but it will take time because I have given not only to you but some other classes also, and in my department classes also. So it becomes huge, and the idea of getting everything in my WhatsApp is also become a mess because many messages in the WhatsApp, and it may happen that your message run very below in the scroll. So every time I'm scrolling, and then I'm finding some new messages there, and then I am trying to answer. So it will take time. So for this topic, what I am saying that you please go through the book again. First, what you do, you just read the book. So what you heard in the class, now when you are reading the book, this chapter, I think you can remember that what you have heard, and then you can understand easily, right? Okay, somebody's written 24th was the last date. Okay, I am considering 24th was last date. আমারটাও কাউকে নম্বর কিছু কম দেওয়ার নেই, তোমরা যারা সাবমিট করেছো বা করনি দয়া করে করে দিও। আমি সবাইকেই নাম্বার দিতে চাইছি, যে কারণে আমি তোমার সাবমিশনের উপরে কোনো এক্ষুনি মার্কিং করছিও না। যারা ভুল করছো আমি সেটা কারেকশনটা বলে দিচ্ছি, তোমরা কারেক্ট করেই সাবমিট করো। হ্যাঁ বলো
স্যার, আমি একবার সাবমিট করেছিলাম কিন্তু স্যার আপনি কারেক্ট করে দিয়েছিলেন, তারপর স্যার আমি সাবমিট করেছি ওই গ্রুপে, তা আপনি তো বললেন মেসেজটা ডিলিট করে দিতে।
হ্যাঁ অ্যাকচুয়ালি আবার গ্রুপে করলে মানে এবার দেখো সব রকমই সমস্যা। এই যে আমি কারেকশন করলাম, আমি আরেকটা ছেলের রকম হয়েছে, কারেকশন করেও দিয়েছে, কিন্তু সেটা আবার যখন দিয়েছে ও ভুল করে একটা ভুল পাতা ওর মধ্যে ওই অ্যাডব স্ক্যানে বোধহয় বাইন্ড করেছে, ফলে ভুলটাও হয়ে গেছে। এখন তাহলে আমাকে ডাবল আবার যদি ওখানে গ্রুপে আবার চেক করতে হয়, সে তো আবার ডবল হয়ে যাচ্ছে না। এইসব সমস্যা অনেক। যাই হোক, আমি দেখছি যতটা পারি ফার্স্ট ফেজ কারেকশনটা তো হয়ে যাক, তারপরে আমি বললে তোমরা তখন ফাইনাল গুলো বরং দিও আর, ঠিক আছে?
স্যার আমার রেডি আছে স্যার, যেদিন বলবেন স্যার দিয়ে দেবো।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, তোমরা এখন রেডি করে রাখো। আমি যতগুলো কারেকশন বলেইছি তোমরা কারেক্ট করে ফ্রেশ করে রেডি করে রাখো। আমি তারপরে একটা সময় এটা হয়ে গেলে তারপরে আমি কল করে।
Hello sir.
হ্যাঁ বলো।
Sir, can you please explain this in English?
হ্যাঁ,
Sir,
what?
Nilargo's question.
Regarding this assignment?
Why do we have to submit, and how to submit? As I too posted.
You please submit personally in my WhatsApp. The
Sir,
deadline was 24, but however you try to. Yeah.
Sir, I submitted there, but you haven't seen that yet.
Okay, I will see. There are a lot of already they're pending more than 100 of this. Okay. So it will take time.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Thank you, sir.
I will get into your assignment. Okay, so good night for everybody today.
Good night, sir.
Good night,
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.